Welcome students. So, after completing the two techniques of management decision making, that is the cost sheet and the budget and budgetary control or the budgetary process, we will move towards the third technique of the management decision making, and that third technique is the standard costing and the variance analysis. Now, we will talk about the certain costing techniques, because cost or controlling the cost is such a strategic decision which is very important for every firm. And now we will learn some costing techniques which are very useful in the management decision making and increasing the overall performance of the firm and the value of the firm, right. So, as I told you that management accounting itself is not a subject which has its own techniques. Like if you talk about the financial accounting is independent area, it has its own techniques, its own methods, it has a full-fledged GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and it is a original independent discipline of accounting. Similarly, we talk about the cost accounting. Cost accounting is again very independent and very, you can call it as the discipline which has its own techniques, its own way of doing the things. But management accounting as such does not have anything of its own. It borrows some of the information or some of the techniques from financial accounting, and it borrows some of the techniques from the cost accounting. So, in the cost accounting, if you look at the techniques, there is a plethora of techniques available, number of techniques available, but all are not useful for the management decision making. Only those techniques which are useful for the management decision making, which help us to generate very relevant and useful information from the point of view of the middle and the top level management, only those techniques we will refer here. So, this is the third technique after the cost sheet and then the budget and budgetary control process. Now, we will be learning about the third technique, that is the standard costing and the variance analysis, and we will learn that how the standard costing can be used as an important tool of overall cost analysis and the cost control, because cost control is a very important requirement of every company. You will agree with me that today we are in the global India, or in the market, Indian market or Indian economy is now the global economy, open economy, liberalized economy. Many multinational companies have come to India and supply side has improved a lot tremendously, and the benefit of that has directly gone to the customers, right. Earlier there was a era till 1991 or before 1991 wherein many sectors, only public sector companies were there, and maybe very few companies were operating in the larger sectors, and means the market of the country, all consumers of the country, all customers of the country in this market, in this huge market, they were dependent upon those companies, right. For example, you talk about the steel sector. In the steel sector, larger market share was with the SAIL, and then were small companies, means the second market company in the market was TISCO. So, largely these were the two companies who were manufacturing steel, and the entire market of means 100 crore people, 1 billion people's market, that was dependent upon the two companies. But now if you talk today's scenario, number of companies are there in the market who are very competitive, who are very efficient, who are able to manufacture very good quality of the steel at a very competitive prices. So, when the supply side has improved, when the many manufacturers have come up to the market, because steel sector is privatized now, any player in the steel sector can come up and they can start operating, manufacturing the steel and start selling the steel to the people, right. So, it is not only the SAIL, the people have to be dependent on the SAIL steel only. SAIL is only one company now and they have to compete with the market competition. TISCO is not the second company. Now, there are number of companies in the western part of India, Maharashtra and this western region of India, part of the Gujarat, we have two best companies like SR and Lloyd Steel. Southern part we have the Jindal Steel Works, so they have created a Jindal Vijayanagar steel plant, and that is Asia's high-tech steel plant, right. So, means now we have got very many companies and the market share of the SAIL has seriously come down. Now, the SAIL is reduced either to the eastern market, central India or the northern part of India. Even these markets are not freely available to the SAIL, maybe these private companies are existing in these markets also. Similarly, to talk about the other sectors like electronics. Earlier we had to buy a color TV or a refrigerator or maybe other electronic products. We were only dependent upon the Indian companies who are manufacturing, say, garbage. I would use this word because had they been manufacturing and selling the quality product and fulfilling the people's requirements in a very honest manner, they must not have gone out of the market. But with the influx of multinational companies, for example, 3 companies, 2 Korean, one is the LG, Samsung, 2 Korean companies, one is the, say, Japanese company Sony. With the, say, emergence of these companies, with the entry of these companies in the Indian market, the these multinational 3 companies in the Indian market, the existing companies have gone out of the market. I would share with you that Onida and Videocon, who had a larger market share, about 45% market share in the electronics segment, was with these 2 companies till even 99 2000 or 98 99 2000. Today these companies are surviving for their existence in the market. Their market share is somewhere 1 or 2%, and that too in the rural market, not in the urban markets, right. So, what has happened now? And if you look at the pricing of the products, if you talk about the color TVs are, say, almost available at the same price even today what we were buying the color TV maybe, say, how many even 20 years back, right. So, we are almost paying the same price, and if we are paying the higher price also, the quality of the product has seriously improved or largely improved, right. So, it means what these companies were selling to us in the past, they were simply exploiting the market and exploiting the sentiments of the customers by passing on the very inferior quality products to us at a very high price, right. Similarly, you talk about any other sector, even the services sector have become very say strong now. It is the biggest contributor in the GDP of India. If you talk about the 3 sectors, services, industry and the agriculture. So, the share of agriculture has gone down. Now, the industry is in between and the services sector has gone up to a larger extent. And after globalization, services sector have got strengthened in a very significant manner. Or any other sector you talk about in automobiles. Today we are driving scooters. We were driving a Bajaj scooter long back, and now we are driving the Honda scooter, Honda Activa or the other scooters of the multinational companies, right. Now, you can understand the difference in the product. If you have driven both the scooters, then you can understand the difference in the Bajaj scooter also and the Honda's products also, TVS products also, or the other companies' products also. So, it means there is a sea change, prices are within control, and ultimately this all has happened because of the intensified competition in the Indian market after globalization. When the multinationals were allowed to come to India, then the overall, say, the benefit of this globalization, liberalization of this economy has reached up to the customers or the consumers of this country, right. Now, why I am discussing all this is with regard to this technique, because this technique is directly linked to the pricing of the product. It is directly linked to the pricing of the product. Pricing is a very important strategic decision, right. If you want to sustain in the market, if you want to increase your market share, if you want to kill your competitors in the market, or if you want to enter in the new markets, right, you have to adopt one strategy to keep the prices of your product under control, because India is a price sensitive market. India is a price sensitive market. We have, say, now the different products, and our demand for different products has gone up, but because of the limited income level, the income level of the people largely of the larger income group are the lower middle income people or the lower income groups or the economically weaker section customers. Upper middle income group and higher income groups are very few in this country, maybe you can say 10-15 people. Largely 80 to 85% of the market is, say, lower middle class, lower class and the EWS people who are price sensitive, right. So, if we are getting a product from a company who is selling the product at a very competitive price, so we can understand that the quality of the product may not be comparable, but the price, if it is lesser and we are getting a genuine reasonable quality of the product, we first go for the lesser price, then the second priority is the quality for the larger section of the people, right. So, if you want to keep the prices of your product or your services under control, you have to start from the cost, because cost is the basis of pricing the products. If you have the, say, the techniques, the ways, the means to control the cost or keep your total cost of production under control, then adding up the margin, desired amount of the margin into that cost, you can price the product. But if your cost is very high already and plus you add up the margins in that, your price will also be very high. And if your price is very high, maybe the quality of the product is also good, but largely it will be rejected by the people. So, to win over the sentiments of the people or to fulfill the requirements of the people, what you have to do here is you have to reduce the prices or keep the prices under control, and if you want to control the prices of the products, you will have to control the cost. And how to control the cost? Here it is the technique available. There are so many techniques, but we will discuss 3-4 techniques in the given time, and the first we are beginning with the standard costing and the variance analysis. One interesting story I will discuss with you with regard to the pricing and the cost of the product. Rather, 2 stories I will discuss with you, so that you can understand what is the power in the cost. What is the power in the cost, and if you are able to control the cost of your production, then you can within no time you can emerge as a very significant player in the market. I will share with you 2 stories. One story is of the say Nirma. Nirma you must have heard about. This is a company which started its business or came into the market with one standard product, that was the Nirma washing powder. Nirma came up in the market in 1982 and this owner of this company, Karsan Bhai, he was somehow knowing the process of manufacturing the washing powder. He was knowing the process of manufacturing the washing powder, and he tried his this concept at his own level. He started manufacturing this product at his home and then started distributing it to the people living in his vicinity, his neighbors, and he found the results are very good, right. Then he increased the level, then he started giving it to his relatives, other people as the free of cost. Initially it was free of cost, and the product was a welcome product by all who used that. And finally then he thought of that I can now commercialize the production and start selling it in the market. And when he started manufacturing it, he priced the 1 kg of the Nirma washing powder for 10 rupees in 1982, right. At that time their major competitor was Hindustan Lever Limited, which nowadays we know the company as Hindustan Unilever, HUL, Hindustan Unilevers. So that company was manufacturing 2 different products at that time. One was the surf, which was for the premium segment of the people, and the second was the say sunlight powder, which was for the low segment of the people. But at that time also, if you compare the prices of the say sunlight and the Nirma, there was a huge difference. And when this Nirma was introduced in the market, 10 rupee a kg, then people liked the product because the results of the products were really wonderful, remarkable, and very you can call it as say eye opening. So you can understand now how the people have supported the company, how the people have welcomed the product from the company, and today Nirma is a well known name, not in the manufacturing sector, but into many areas including education, right. So how this all has happened? A large company, a giant like Hindustan Lever Limited, a Hindustan Unilever level of the multinational company that got a challenge from one single individual who had that innovation in the mind, that concept in the mind, and who could create a product, and he could win over the hearts of the people and to make his existence in the market, the existence of his product in the market, because of the one factor, that is the cost of the production. Though we understand that the quality of the Nirma is not comparable to surf, but the price if you go for, it is very much far less than what the company is charging, the other company is charging for the surf, and largely the people in India, they can afford to pay that much of the price only. So that was the reason, reducing the cost, keeping the cost of production under control was the major reason for the success of the product like Nirma in 1980s, right. Second story I will share with you is of the Akai color TV. Akai color TV was an assembled product in the market, and at that time when Akai was existing in the market, it was available, a color TV was available for 8 to 10,000 rupees. And if you compare that product, the price of that product with the other products of the other multinational companies, that was somewhere for 25,000 rupees. So, it means 2.5 times more cost you have to pay for the quality product. So, he manufactured, means Kabir Mulchandani, who was the say head of that company, he brought that concept to India and he started manufacturing and selling those say Akai brand color TVs in the market, and at a very say you can call it as a lesser price. He was earning the profits by selling the color TV for 10,000 rupees. He was also earning the profits, and a company selling the color TV for 25,000 rupees in the market, they were also earning the profits. So, how you can sell a color TV for 10,000 rupees in the market, which is normally available for 25,000 rupees in the market. The strength was keeping the cost under control, keeping the cost under control, because it was an assembled product. He brought in all the inputs like picture tubes, circuits, cabinets of the color TVs. He imported in millions of units from Taiwan. Taiwan is the hub of this production of the electronic components. He bought that product in millions of units and brought it to India, started assembling those, converting that into a color TV. So, the strength of the product was cost, which was very much under control. So, the product was accepted in the market for the say sufficient period of time. So, it means these two stories tell us that yes, we can go for it and we can say win over the hearts of the people, we can change the dynamics of the market, we can say earn a significant market share within no time, provided in a price sensitive economy we are able to keep the cost of production under control. And with the help of standard costing, we are going to do that, or we normally do that in the businesses, right. Now, standard costing and variance analysis. The question must be coming in your mind that we did the variance analysis in the budgeting also, and now we are going to do the variance analysis in the standard costing also. So, what is the basic difference between the two? What is the basic difference between the two? What kind of the variance analysis we did till now, and what kind of the variance analysis we are going to do now, right. So, now that basic difference I am going to tell you here is that is of say micro and macro nature. When you prepare the budget, you learned about the budget and budgetary control. We talked about the firm as a whole. We talked about the departments, sub-departments, units and sub-units of the firm, and ultimately when we prepared the sales budget, that was for the firm as a whole, including all the products firm is manufacturing and selling in the market. When we prepared the purchase budget, that was prepared for the firm as a whole, for all category of the inputs required for the all outputs of the firm. When we prepared the say cash budget, that was for the firm as a whole. When we prepared the budgeted income statement, that was for the firm as a whole, and when we prepared the balance sheet, that was for the whole firm, maybe for a period of 3 months or 1 quarter. Now, we are going to go at the micro level. Standard costing is a technique which helps us to go for the minute costing analysis, and here we learn to go for calculating the standard cost for each and every product we are manufacturing in the firm. If we are manufacturing only one product, then we will now go for the minute micro level of the analysis, complete dissection of the cost, and trying to understand what contributes the cost, total cost of the 1 unit of our product. If we are manufacturing 4 products, we will prepare the standard cost for the 4 different products, and then we will try to find out that this is the standard cost per unit of the product, how much is going to be now the actual cost, and then we will find out the variances and then go for the say finding out the reasons for those variances, and if they are controllable reasons, we will do everything possible to control those variances, so that cost of production remains as per budgeted or very much under control, right. So, this is the reason of the standard costing, and this is the means the relevance of the standard costing, that now we are going to do the product level analysis. Earlier it was the firm level analysis. So, that is the basic difference between the budget and the standard costing, one part. Now, for example, you talk about the different industries in the manufacturing sector, like the firms manufacturing pharmaceutical products, drugs, the firms manufacturing chemicals, firms manufacturing paints and other you can call it as your similarly the other material in the paints industry and polishing material paints, and then you talk about the say the firms who are manufacturing the petrochemical products. There the inputs are multiple in nature. For manufacturing one drug, converting one molecule into the saleable drug in the market, you need to have different types of the materials, right. And sometimes some materials are used in very say you can call it as a minute quantity, but they are very expensive in the price. So, if you are even are going for the wastage of the minimum amount of that say input, your overall cost of the production per unit will go up very high, and that will become you can call it as uncontrollable. So, in those firms, in those manufacturing areas where the inputs are so many to manufacture the one output, there the importance of standard costing is very high, because controlling the cost is the first thing. If you want to sustain in the market, if you want to stay in the market, you only can control the cost, you cannot control the selling price. If you want to keep your margin intact or you want to increase the margin of your company, your profits, only weapon in your hand is that you can control the cost. You cannot think of controlling the price, because price is decided by the external factors, external forces, and they are the market forces. They are the demand and supply forces. Earlier in the situation when I am talking about the globalized, unglobalized economy or pre-globalization era or the pre-globalization scenario, there what was? Demand was very high because we were 1 billion people market, and supply was very poor, or you can call it as weak. Only one company is manufacturing, selling the entire say production of the market, and they are the sole manufacturer and selling the same the product in the market, fulfilling the demand of the people in the market. So, you can understand that means ultimately people have to fall prey and they have to accept what garbage is being supplied to them. You talk about the steel, you talk about even you talk about the say services sector, the telephone industry. Communication industry you talk about, there was one department Department of Telecommunication, right, and later on it became BSNL also. At that time, if you had to have a telephone connection, you had to apply 3-4 years in advance. After 3-4 years you were getting the telephone connection, and when telephone was being installed at our home, we were considering a dream come true. Today you see that after globalization and this revolution in the mobile telephony, you see that just on a phone call you get the phone. And it is because of the increase in the supply in the mobile telephony sector, your prices of the communication have seriously come down. Today internet is available at for a few rupees. Today internet is available for not even rupees but paisas. The phone is, I think it has no cost, and this revolution has gone up. It has intensified, this competition has intensified because this communication sector, telephony, mobile telephony is flooded with the service providers. So, the direct impact of it is that the moment supply side improves, which has been the result of globalization of Indian economy, the moment supply side improves, the prices get affected, prices come down because there is a stiff competition. And if the prices come down or prices get controlled by some external forces, and if you want to stay in the market, keep your margins intact, then the only weapon in your hand is controlling the cost. So, we will be talking about the standard cost and the variance analysis in this say coming now few classes in detail, and then first we will understand it conceptually, and then we will learn what are the different type of the variances we can calculate, how to calculate those variances, and then once the variances are ready with us, those figures are ready with us, then how to analyze those variances and how to use this standard costing related information comparing with the actual performance for the actual management decision making. Right. So, now we will proceed further with this part, and we will learn about that what is the standard cost and what is the standard costing. It has two components. First is the standard cost, and then it is the standard costing. Standard cost is basically the cost, it is a predetermined cost, and standard costing is the technique of calculating the standard cost, right. So, how to calculate the standard cost? It is a technique, and that is called as the standard costing or the standard costing process. So, what is the standard cost? Is the predetermined cost based on a technical estimate for materials, labor and overheads for a selected period of time and for a prescribed set of the working conditions. It is a, what is it? It is a predetermined cost. Further, It is a cost that management believes should be incurred to produce a good or produce a good or service under anticipated conditions. Whether it is in the manufacturing sector or it is a services sector, everywhere the cost is an important component. It is an important weapon in the hands of the manufacturer to stay in the market, to sustain in the competition, and to say keep your competitors away and to have the larger market share. So, in both the sectors, whether it is manufacturing or it is services sector, standard cost plays the role, and standard costing is the technique which helps us to calculate the standard cost. Now, what is standard costing? It refers to the preparation of standard cost and applying these two, measure the variations from actual cost and analyzing the causes of variations with a view to maintain maximum efficiency in the production. We have devised the standard cost, and I tell you here, calculating the standard cost is not a very easy task. It is a very complex job. Only experts are involved in calculating the standard cost. People who know the manufacturing process, people who know the input components of say finished product, only those are involved in manufacturing the product, or say devising the standards for the product. And this information once developed, the standard cost is developed, that is a very confidential information also, that is not shared with anybody, and that remains communicated to the different interest groups in the firm who are going to contribute right from the purchase of the material department to the selling of the product in the market. So, it has two components, three components rather, purchase of the inputs, converting the raw material into finished product, that is a production department. So, procurement department, production department, and sales, and even after sales service department. So, all these 3 to 4 departments are involved in this standard costing process. So, every component has to be carefully analyzed, taken into account, and then we have to calculate the standard cost, and this is a complex job. Once the standards are decided or the standard cost is decided, it does not change largely over a period of time until unless there is a serious change in the market, and it remains communicated to the different sections, subsections, units and subunits, which we call in the technical terms as responsibility centers in the organization. They know it in advance that what is the raw material cost expected and what should be paid as the purchase price. What is the production cost at the different levels of the process is expected, and what cost should we incur. Similarly, the distribution cost is known in advance. Similarly, your sales cost is also known in advance. So, if the cost increases beyond the pre-decided levels, then we have to be careful, analyze the variances by comparing the budgeted cost, standard cost with the actual cost, find out the variances or the deviations in the two, and try to find out the reasons for those variances. And again, same principle applies here. Variances if are coming up because of the reasons which were controllable but were not controlled, then I think we should take the necessary action. And if any variances have come up because of the reasons which are beyond the control, then I think nobody can do anything. For example, the price of the input has gone up in the market, you can't do much in that. Price of the labor has gone up in the market, you can't do much. But wherever the reason is controllable, variances have come up because of the controllable reasons, we should fix up those reasons and try to eliminate those causes, so that overall cost of the production remains under control. So, this is the crux of the standard costing, this is the reason of the standard costing, and this is the relevance of the standard costing, and this is how the standard costing is different from the budget and the budgetary process. Budget is at the macro level, means it is a pre-estimate at the macro level, means at the level of the firm as a whole, and the costing is, standard costing is the pre-decided cost, is a standard cost at the say product level. If the firm is manufacturing one product, then you will prepare the standard cost for that product. If the firm is manufacturing more than one product, then the individual costing estimates for those different products, and finally we will have to come up to a conclusion that what should be the standard cost. Now, we talk about the different types of the standards, right. So, we can use different type of the terminologies here, expectations, standard costs and the standard cost systems, and we have the clear cut definition and the differences for these different points. and expected cost is a cost that is most likely to be attained. So, this is expectation, most likely to be attained cost. What should be the normal cost of production? This is the expected cost, and you can say it is related to the expectations. Number 2, a standard cost is carefully developed cost per unit that should be attained. One is the expectation without doing anything, and second thing is the carefully worked out cost, which you call it as the standard cost. And the standard cost systems are accounting systems that value products according to the standard costs only, right. So, it means the costing technique is the standard costing. Standard cost is the carefully developed pre-manufacturing cost, and expected cost is the one when we have not yet started the production. We are expecting that if we know the input cost largely, then what should be the cost of the product, right. So, in this case you can understand that the difference between the expectations, standard cost and the standard cost system, right. Now, we go further and try to know something about the say standards, and then the different types of standards we will try to know about, and then we will see that what is the first the difference between these standards, and second important thing is how to develop these standards. So, what are the standards, what are the prerequisites of the standards, and how we can develop these standards, this all I will discuss with you in the next class. Thank you very much.